being there for him in all ways, shape, or form is what I have been through from day one. So I think for my personal road, I grieved our relationship while we were separated. So I didn't have to go through that part when I found out about his injury or about his accident. So I went into it with a conscious decision on what I knew I was going to do for my husband, and that he wasn't going to be a burden to anyone else, and not that he would be a burden to his family. But when you're a married couple, with an injury or not injury, you belong to each other, right? And it's only up to you two on what happens in your relationship. It's not up to family. It's not up to friends. It's not up to what stories you tell them. It's not up to whatever emotion you were in at the time of being mad at one another. None of that was a factor for me. I knew I was going to love him back to health, and I was going to find every alternative medicine for him, because I personally do not believe in pharmaceuticals all the time. I do not believe that those are the best things for you or that will help you over hurdles. And what has helped me get through the grieving process is you gotta look in that mirror and accept reality. You have to be thankful. If you really are a religious person, then you shouldn't mourn the living, right? You got to be thankful that they are still living, and understand maybe there's something here for you to learn. Maybe there's something here that's bigger than you. So the door that opened me from going through that cycle is always finding an alternative, how to help the next person, how to not let somebody go and sit in the trauma unit as I did with all the bullcrap that was on the table, from the drama of the outside to the uncertainty of the healthcare industry and their screenshots that they want to keep feeding you and what you're going to accept. I started looking was to help the next person, whether it was to help the next survivor or to help the next caretaker, or to just get the information out there. So that's what helped me get through that cycle. And I was only able to go through it once because, again, as a caregiver, you don't have those options. You have to get up, put your big girl panties on all the time, and you have to think for yourself and your survivor 3, 4, 5 times more than you would in a normal day. Okay? So dealing with a survivor, you not only are dealing with them, you're dealing with the outsides that have access to them. So sometimes that can push you back into that grieving part, because then you get angry at the situation again. Don't get angry. Do something about it. Look for an alternative. Go to a support group. Support groups are so important, because you're not speaking to people that don't know what you're going through and never experienced it. If I never been stabbed, I can't tell somebody how a stab wound would feel and how it feels while it's healing and what to do if you're feeling a certain pain somewhere else. But I can tell you what you possibly are going to go through as a caregiver. I can tell you, if you haven't gone through it, it's coming. You will go through it. You've been through it. But getting out that cycle is getting out and helping others, going to support groups, asking for help from people, just checking in on somebody. Hey, how are you doing? Because us caregivers get overlooked all the time, and it's not intentional at all. It's just people can't look really past their nose and will put their visions upon you. If they don't see themselves being the woman that can care and love for a man that may have violated them in some way, shape, or form, or their relationship, then they don't understand how you are a woman who can. Okay? So never measure what you're able to go through with somebody else's ruler. Okay? Our friends and family mean good, and probably most of them don't mean any malice with it. But a lot of them don't see themselves doing it for their own. So how do they understand how you can do it and deal with the anger outbursts and deal with the situations that are all on your plate. So allow yourselves to go through your grieving stages. Get outside help. Do a journal. Document it. Talk to somebody that does know this life. Okay? It helps my husband a lot also to have support group for him, because I don't know what it's like to be a survivor. So when he gets to be around other survivors and they get to share stories, he gets to see his path might be different, but it's not a new path. He's just hitting different angles, different corners at different times than another survivor did, but they all do the same thing at some point or another, okay? And so do caregivers. We all go through the same thing one way, shape, or another at some point within it, whether we're 1 year down the line, 6 months down the line. Whether you're a spouse or a girlfriend, you're going to have family issues. Why? Because that is human nature, okay? That instinct of wanting to protect their own. And some might mean malice to you as a significant other, and some might just not see past their own nose. But if you are a spouse, you stand up and you take your marriage the same way you would if your husband never got hurt. But now you just have to care for him because he is hurt. Okay? So I might touch base on this again at another time. But I just wanted to get that out. It was something on my mind, and I see a lot of people, survivors and caregivers, getting stuck in that grieving mode. Now the survivors understand they have no filters. So getting them through their grieving process takes their own special one step at a time. Okay? Because if they don't have a filter, understand they then have to decipher every little thing. See, our brains automatically, when you walk into the room, it'll say, oh, that light switch is not important. You don't have to pay attention to that. Oh, that noise over there is not important. You don't have to pay attention to that. But for a survivor, they're all magnified, and everything in their brain is telling them this is important, this light is important, this light switch is important, that piece of lint on the floor is important. It is overstimulating to their brain. So just imagine, how do they understand their own emotions that they're going through? You have to allow your survivor the time. They have a brain that is still trying to understand things, and us with our natural normal filters want them to be where we're at as a caregiver, and that's unfair to your survivor. It's unfair to set them up for unrealistic expectations and want them to handle things the way they always did. And if that's what you're comparing to, you have not gotten through the 5 steps of grieving. And I suggest you get outside help, or really learn how to accept your new life and be as real with yourself as you can. I don't condone divorce, but if you know you are not going to be the best and the healthiest person and the most positive person for your husband or loved one to get to their next level, and there's somebody better to do that, step to the side and let them do it.